Hi Delmarva, welcome back again to LifeWorks PRMC. I'm Roger Follebout, the Director of Community Relations at Peninsula Regional Medical Center. Hey, here's something I'll bet you didn't know. The campus at Peninsula Regional Medical Center is now almost 1 million square feet. That's on par with some of the big medical centers across the bay. Interesting how far we have grown in the last 115 years, right? So how do you get around that campus? You know, it's tough enough for those of us who work there to find our way around sometimes, but if you're a patient or a visitor at our campus, you know, how do you get around? Are you safe? What are some of the things that we're doing to make it easier for you to get from point A to point B at Peninsula Regional Medical Center? Nobody better to talk about that than the Executive Director of Facilities and Properties at PRMC, Mr. Tom Anderson. And Tom is with us on the program today. Tom, welcome.
Thank you, Roger. How are you today?
I am well. Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing this. As we always do with the program, we're going to give Tom a couple of minutes off the top here to tell you a little bit about himself and his life history. So Tom, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I spent about 8 years in design engineering and then started at hospital engineering at Hopkins back in the early 80s. Worked through Baltimore at Hopkins, University of Maryland, and Mercy Medical Center, and started into operations and went on to Washington, D.C. to Providence Hospital. I spent 20 years there, pretty much rebuilt the entire institution, built a nursing home, got heavy into all the various medical areas, and then wound up looking for something more interesting and being down at PRMC about 1.5 years ago. And it's been very interesting, nice change of culture and very interesting location.
Yeah, so here you are with your toes in the sand, right?
Yeah.
Hey, one other thing you didn't mention, but I know about you that I think is terribly interesting, is the fact that you have a background in Homeland Security as well. Tell me a little bit about that and why you got into that.
Well, it all stems from the Joint Commission. You know, one of the standards in the Joint Commission is emergency management. And back in the early 90s, when I was working with the DC Hospital Association, we created one of the first hospital emergency management committees. And we went on to work with a lot of major grants that were by DOD and several of the other government agencies. And I started to work more and more with the emergency management arena and getting in with the government agencies. I was on the Mayor's Bioterrorism Task Force for several years, and it just was something very interesting that I found was very current as well, and something that later on we even proved to be more important to the country and the healthcare scene.
Yeah, very current in today's environment for sure. What are the divisions you oversee at the hospital, Tom?
Yeah, I'm responsible for plant operations and maintenance and engineering, safety and security, environmental services, patient transportation, and biomedical engineering.
As we said at the beginning of the program, and I guarantee you a lot of people didn't know it, I didn't know it until you and I started talking about it a couple of months ago, is the fact that campus is now almost 1 million square feet. That's huge. What are some of the biggest challenges for you in charge of that entire campus and its facilities?
Well, really, it's consistency and the age of the buildings is a lot of a challenge. And we also have, you know, you've got to see that 200,000 square feet is really in satellite facilities. So we have 14 or so buildings that are scattered around the Eastern Shore, goes all the way down into Chincoteague, up into Laurel, Delaware, and Dagsboro, and we have to maintain those facilities as well. So as we have to get around to those, make sure they're current with all the Joint Commission standards, with building codes, and then when we have buildings that are from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and more currently from this decade, we see that we have a lot of different codes to deal with, and the maintenance of the building and some of the aged equipment and structure that we have to maintain.
I know this is very important to you as it is to me, with thousands of people on that campus every day, visitors, patients, staff, doctors, volunteers, anyone who comes on the campus. Safety is important to all of us, and making sure that everybody gets safely from where they come to where they intend to be, and then back to their vehicle again. I know that recently we've completed a big safety study, and we're implementing some of those things and some of those recommendations. Can you speak a little bit about what we're doing to improve safety at PRMC?
Sure. A lot of it is access on and through the site. So some of the things we've done so far is we've put screening around our Garage A, which is our employee garage, which really has its perimeter on Carroll Street to prevent some of the transition through the property. Next, we're getting ready to relight the garage, both Garage A and Garage B, the visitor's garage. We're going to upgrade the lighting, make it more photosensitive, so we have a little bit better energy profile as well. We're putting some emergency call stations throughout the garage and the parking lots, as well as making security more aware and improving some of the wayfinding around the property. So as you get onto the parking lots and the driveways, it's a little bit easier to get around and see where you're going.
Mm-hmm. And Tom, you and I both know this too. I mean, and this really is common sense, but it's worth repeating again. No matter where you are, whether it's Peninsula Regional Medical Center, it's the mall, it's a restaurant, when you step out of your vehicle, be aware of your surroundings and be aware of what's going on around you, correct? How important is that?
Very. We find most crimes that are committed, whether they're in parking lots or malls or anywhere, are crimes of opportunity. And most of the time, we do something that promotes the action. Leaving parcels in the back of our cars exposed, kind of an invitation, money in the dashboard, things like that, leaving GPS or other equipment visible in plain sight. It really is inviting for people to come by, and sometimes they like your stuff more than you do.
Yeah, good advice. Good advice. You know, we mentioned a little bit about wayfinding at the beginning of the program, and you mentioned it just a moment ago too. And for folks who may not understand, wayfinding is simply getting you around, getting you from point A to point B. With a campus that large, that's a huge challenge. I know it is. And I know we're always looking at the best way to do that and always looking for ways to make it easier for folks to get around our campus. Let's talk about that a little bit, starting on the outside, the exterior of Peninsula Regional and what we're doing to help folks get where they want to be.
Certainly. We have so many main entrances, and that's probably the first obstacle, is if you don't know where you're going before you get there, it's not as easy as it could be to get into the right building, since we have several buildings.
Sure.
So what we want to do is direct you to the right area, make sure that the obelisks at the entrances really do have the guidance and the right names that you can see while you're driving 30 miles an hour. That's probably one thing that a lot of people don't realize is when you're driving, you only have a split second to take a look at the sign. So you have to make it as easy recognizable as you can and as plain as you can. So making sure those outside signs lead you to the right entrance first is the most important piece. And then once you get into the building, find your interior signage directing you from any entrance point to any critical location where you're looking to go, whether it's an outpatient service or an inpatient unit, is secondary.
One of the things that I've noticed that we've done recently at the medical center is we're starting to color code different areas, making it easier for people to not only know where they've been or where they're going to. And also, I understand that we're working with some smart technology as well, potentially down the road here, to make that even easier once people get inside the buildings.
Yes, and that really starts in the garages, but we've started the color coding, so it integrates the elevators with the floor plans. So as you go through the building, you can track where you're going by color, so you know which building you're going to, and you can follow that color code through the building, as well as taking the vertical transportation on the elevator system. What we're looking at now is QR codes. So if you have a smartphone, you can walk up to a sign, there'll be the code there next to your location. You can snap your code and it'll put a map on your phone to give you exactly how to get to the point. If you have a phone with GPS capability, it'll actually track your footsteps to your final location.
That's coming? That's technology soon to come to the medical center?
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. I know, you know, here's something else I want you to talk about, because I know we talked about this a little bit in our leadership meeting maybe last month. We recently did a boiler conversion at Peninsula Regional Medical Center that has saved upwards of $500,000 and counting. Tell us a little bit about how that idea came around and how you managed to save $500,000 by just changing your boiler system.
Well, it really isn't that difficult, to be truthful. It's just smart business. Our boilers have been on diesel fuel since they were installed, and we had the opportunity to tie into a natural gas service line that runs on Carroll Street. We did a feasibility study. So the first phase was to go in and retrofit the boilers with dual fuel fired burners. So the burners can actually work on natural gas or they can work on the diesel fuel. We ran the piping in through the building, tied it into the boiler plant, and now we run on natural gas, which is much cheaper than diesel fuel, and that's where we got the predominance of our savings. We also were able to tie a line into the kitchen, so where they've been all electric service to their equipment, they now have natural gas fired equipment as well.
I'm assuming as well that that's a much cleaner burn as well and much more environmentally friendly.
Absolutely. We get clean credits from that too. We actually can get some additional benefit from that. The other piece to this is we get better gas rates because we have dual fuel capability. Because if the utility has to cut gas consumption because it's very cold and the residential folks need it, then we can go on to diesel fuel and save the gas for the residential.
And again, this is seamless to the patients and visitors.
It's a flip of a switch, more or less.
Yeah. Can't let you get away without talking a little bit about our $18 million operating room expansion and renovation that's going on too.
Yeah, that project is finishing its first phase. We're getting ready to convert the first 4 ORs over to use, which will happen sometime about the 1st of May. It's a great project. We have a 35-year-old operating suite that the rooms are averaging 400 square feet. We'll be able to have 800 square feet surgical suites that'll be able to handle every mode of technology that we have today, give the surgeons much better ability to do more modalities and really provide the care that they'd like to. We're in a safe environment today. We meet all the codes and the standards of when this surgical suite was built, but the codes change over time, and the new codes require bigger rooms for better access and better functionality.
Crystal ball time, Tom, to end the show. Where do you see Peninsula Regional as a facilities executive director in the next decade or so?
Well, I think with the changes that are coming up both in health reform and market, and as well as downtown development, I can see more connectivity to downtown as that may progress. And I can see some additional buildings. Some of the older structures we have really do need to be replaced with newer buildings and better facilities. However, I think from the inside out, we're going to start to see the patient rooms being more patient-focused and centered, and the bed is going to be the central focal point, where the bed is really going to be doing a lot more of the diagnostics and be doing some more of the work to help the nursing staff and the physicians diagnose patients and give them treatment, as well as the patients to be more interactive with their environment, both the nursing unit in their room, for entertainment, for treatment, for education, for every aspect of care.
Outstanding. Well, Tom, thanks. I do appreciate you being here on the program with us and sharing insight and information about your job at Peninsula Regional and Facilities, and come on back and see us again sometime.
Sure. Thank you very much, Roger.
Tom Anderson, the Executive Director of Facilities and Properties at Peninsula Regional Medical Center. And that'll do it for this broadcast. But as always, if you have ideas for the show, we'd love to hear from you. You can call me at Peninsula Regional at 410-543-7142, or you can always email me at roger.follebout@peninsula.org. That's it for this edition of LifeWorks PRMC. Until we see you again, take care.